Hey, lifers, Dustin here. It is saying we are live, so hopefully we are live right now. I know this video is, 3 days late. Before we actually start talking about everything, I want to explain it a little bit. My internet went out Sunday, and AT&T kept finding extra problems and all kinds of screwed up things outside that couldn't fix it, and yeah, I just could not live stream it until today. I also could not put up videos until today. So I've seen comments on videos asking, hey man, no new videos? The national championship just happened. Trust me, I know. I understand. I just have not been able to talk about it. It's been driving me nuts because I've just been talking to friends and family about it, and they're like, yeah, I know. Because they don't care about football the same way we do. What's up, everybody? Yes, Varzen 188. I'm an Alabama fan. Normally, I try to be really objective. I try to be, to keep how I feel about teams out of discussions and videos, and I'll continue to do that, but this is the one video I'm going to let myself gloat and really take it in, because as we will talk about here in a minute, Alabama had absolutely no reason to win that game. Georgia should be the national champions right now. So it's good to see 22 people already in here, 23. I apologize. I had this announcement set for Monday night right after the game, but our internet and TV went out, so I had to go across town to watch it. And then I couldn't figure out how to turn this off. My password, I have it now, but I made it something really complex so that I couldn't get hacked or swatted or whatever, any of that stuff. And, it's great when you can get into your account, but when you can't. So I just haven't been able to do it at somebody else's place either. The state of Georgia loves blowing big games. Yeah, it appears that way. It appears that way. Both red, white, and black teams blowing huge leads in championship games against dynasties. Not a lot. What's up, Peyton Ingle? MoFan 10, Drew Lock coming back to Mizzou. That is going to be huge next year, especially in a SEC East that's a little bit depleted. Yeah, you have Georgia all the way at the top, but Kentucky, South Carolina, sure, has a good defense. Vanderbilt, also a good defense, but you're going to have a rebuilding Tennessee, a rebuilding Florida. UCF national champs. AJ Jones, when we talked on Twitter, I thought Georgia was going to win. I thought Georgia was going to win the whole time. I thought, most of the game, Georgia was clearly the better team. They took their foot off the gas or something in the second half and did not go for the kill when they should have. Got away from the pass, which worked pretty well, a lot better than I thought it would in the first half. All the way up until the end. When I was watching it with my aunt and uncle, and when we tried that field goal at the end of regulation that would have won it 23-20, they were like, Alabama's going to win a national championship. I was like, this must be your first ever Alabama game. There is no way we're making this kick. And then, of course, he hooked it left. I think he missed the entire net. Yeah, get that idiot out of here. He missed the entire net, and we went into overtime. And I thought when we went into overtime, I think I even tweeted, going into overtime, Georgia has a better run game. That gives them the advantage. And then Fromm took the big sack on third down. And then when Tua took the big sack on first down, I was like, wow, that's really bad. And then Tua threw the most absolutely perfect spiral pass. Perfect spiral pass. Why am I wearing this shirt? Because my alma mater won the national championship. This is the one time I'm going to gloat. Do I think UCF would beat Alabama? The answer to that question is, could they beat Alabama? Of course. I think UCF is an extraordinarily good team, especially offensively. I think they are a really, 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 really strong team this past year, especially with Scott Frost coaching them. I don't know what the future looks like for UCF, even with Milton still being there, but I put it this way. If Alabama and UCF played 10 times in 2017 with their squads, I think UCF may win 2 of those. I think Alabama would win most of them. But the reason I want an 18 playoff is you never know if the Sugar Bowl or whatever could be that one time. You know, you never know if in the quarterfinal, because UCF probably would have been the 8 seed. I guess they would have played Clemson. But you never know if that's the one time of the 2 times that they could possibly beat Alabama. Jalen will transfer. Maybe. I think Matt Wilson also asked, do you think Jalen Hurts will leave? I don't know. Jacob Eason is leaving to go to Washington, as reports coming out of Athens are, but he's a freshman. Hurts he's a rising junior. If you have to sit out a year of eligibility on top of that, you know, you only really get one good year wherever else you're going. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back and battled Tua in the spring. We would assume, standing right where we are right now, that he would lose that battle and be the backup, but his most effective quality was always running the ball. So why wouldn't Jalen be kind of like a Wildcats player / running back / maybe he can even catch a few passes. Maybe he can kind of turn into the Jalen Samuels of Alabama, out of NC State, if anybody knows that player. Turtle Tav. Hi, you're an awesome football YouTuber. Thank you. But go Knights, national champs. That's fine. You know, here's what's funny. Here's what's funny about people, especially Bama fans, getting really mad at UCF fans calling for national champions. To my knowledge, and I may be wrong about this now, but as of Monday night or even before that, when UCF was really claiming, you know, the whole national championship and having the big parade and all that, you can't be a national champ until somebody, like officially, until an poll outlet crowns you national champ. So if some verifiable poll or computer or ranking or whatever says the UCF is number 1, they can claim it. Bama has titles that we really shouldn't claim that we do. Most schools that have national championships, especially in like the 20s through the 50s range, have national championships that they really shouldn't be able to claim. In 1950, Oklahoma finished the regular season number 1 and then got beat by Kentucky in a bowl game. But they claimed national champions at the end of the regular season instead of the bowls back then, so Oklahoma has that title. So if UCF wants to... thank you, Carrie Hartley. If UCF wants to claim themselves national champions, first off, you can claim yourself whatever you want. Oklahoma State put up a 1945 national championship thing on their stadium this year, so it doesn't bother me. But you know, if a poll votes them as number 1, that's fine because they're undefeated. But if Alabama fans are butthurt about it, don't be. You won the college football playoff. You'll be fine. Don't worry about them. Like, Alabama fans, we have a big enough ego when it comes to our football team as it is. We'll be fine. I saved one video. Rascal 2019 Gaming, thoughts on the FCS championship. So I had something to do that morning, so I only saw the second half of that game, basically. I think I came in with a little bit left in the second quarter. But that was I hope you guys were able to watch that game. That's a really fun national championship game. When James Madison faked that punt to the left, they had all the momentum. The way the camera angle was, when that punter went to the left and the whole field opened up, I thought the punter was going to score a game-winning touchdown run in a national championship game. But he didn't, and then the North Dakota State defense kept pushing him back. Yeah, it was a really, really fun game. I was personally... I did realize during that game I don't hate a single FCS team in the country, I don't think. All my energy growing up was always in the FBS, so I didn't really care too much about the FCS, but I rooted for the odd team here or there. And growing up in South Carolina, I always rooted for Furman and Wofford and Coastal. In App State and Georgia Southern when they were down at the FCS ranks. But my cousin played football at Lenoir-Rhyne, which is the Division II school in Hickory, North Carolina, and his head coach was Mike Houston, who's the head coach of JMU. So I was kind of pulling for the Dukes because of that. But my boy Carson, I don't know if you can see, I have a little action figure of his, for the Eagles, obviously came out of North Dakota State. So I was fine either way. But that's something I learned. I was like, I don't really hate any FCS team. This is nice. I can, watch games and enjoy it. We will be back, and congrats to Alabama. That was a good game, and go Dogs. Hello, Aston. Hello, Brody. The first half was boring. Even if maybe if you were not, other than people rooting for Georgia. Because a lot of people think that the 2012 BCS championship between LSU and Alabama was boring. I loved it. I was an Alabama fan. But unless you were rooting for Georgia, the first half was pretty boring. I just expected more. Alabama's offense was, was sputtering under Jalen. I think we had one first down in the first half, 95 total yards. Georgia's touchdown drive to close out the first half was 69 yards by itself. So things was why do I have a Bama shirt? Oh, you're a bandwagon, aren't you? Yeah, that's it. That's exactly why. But yeah, will Tua or Jalen start next year, Anthony? I would assume Tua. But yeah, I pulling Jalen. I texted my friend during the half. We were talking about the game. He was a Clemson fan. And I said, when I saw Tua coming out to start the second half, I said, if we lose this game, one of the greatest what-ifs of the entire 2010s college football is going to be what if Saban had kept Jalen in. And if we win, it's going to be considered one of the greatest coaching moves of all time, and it is the second. It's one of the greatest coaching moves of all time. Do you think Georgia versus Alabama would be a regular season matchup this year? I don't think so. Let's see who Alabama plays from the East. Missouri. Ooh, that'll be fun. Drew Lock against Alabama's defense this year. That'll be fun. So no, it will not be a regular season matchup. Maybe their only chance would be an SEC championship game, which they did not do this year. How do you think Tennessee will do? I don't know right now. I like Jeremy Pruitt. I think he'll do a good job. He'll win an SEC game, so you'll do better than you did in 2017. But I don't know off the top of my head. I haven't really dug into it yet. Book or Wimbush as the next Irish coach, as the Irish for the Irish next year. My brain spazzed out for a second. Based on what we saw at the end of the year, you can't put Wimbush in there. I would go with Book, especially in the LSU game. He won that LSU game. What about Will Grier returning? West Virginia will be really good next year. Yeah, I think I kind of was disappointed in West Virginia this year. I thought they would do a little bit better under him. But yeah, they're going to do very well next year. Obviously, his hand or finger or whatever will be better. That was a disappointing loss, but it came in the last game of the year, or next to last game. Clemson or A&M? It is way too early for predictions, my friend. But right now, I got to go Clemson. A&M, even under Jimbo will know Clemson. He's never going to escape Clemson. But yeah, it's really early to pick that. But right now, I'd have to say Clemson. It'll be interesting to see who plays in that game at quarterback for Clemson. Do you think that Oklahoma would have been a better opponent for Bama? Boston Griffin, that depends on what you mean by better opponent. I'll tell you this, if Oklahoma had played that game, my feelings are it would have been a bigger deficit than 13-0 for Alabama at the half. Now, maybe Saban would have pulled the trigger on Tua earlier, but it probably, if they scored 31 points on Georgia in the first half, they probably would score somewhere around that on Alabama's defense in the first half. Tua won't live up to the hype. Don't get me wrong, he was awesome, but he'll get so much hype like Sam Darnold did last year and won't live up to it. There's a chance. He's a little bit younger, so he's a little bit more malleable and coachable. That's not really a fair thing to say. I don't know. We'll see. I don't really know Sam Darnold. I don't follow USC football. That's way on the left coast. I'm much closer to the Alabama program. I still have friends that work in the Alabama program. I can tell you this, that Tua's head is very squarely on his shoulders. He is a very down-to-earth kid. He's a very smart, humble kid. Not to say Sam Darnold wasn't, but being in LA and being in Tuscaloosa are two different things as far as that goes. But I don't know. Do you think Jalen Hurts will make the NFL one day? Right now, I'm going to tell you no. At least, not as a quarterback. If he switches to some kind of a running back or, I think about Trey Burton with the Eagles. He was a quarterback at Florida, and then he became a really good, kind of dependable third-string tight end, which with Philadelphia, third string sounds bad. He's in there a lot. He led our team in NFL or in touchdown catches in a lot of games. But he's just kind of a bigger, stockier guy. I think that Jalen may be able to do something like that to get into the NFL, but I don't think he'll get in there as a quarterback. Tua reminds me of Cardale Jones. J-Rock, I thought of that story during the game where I was like, Alabama got beat by a backup third-string quarterback in the playoff in 2014, and now here they are using their backup to beat Georgia in the national championship. Jalen Hurts should be a safety? Maybe. There's something else I was going to look at and it went guy. Please give me your thoughts on Baylor's season. I'm a desperate Baylor fan, and I just watched something say. I just want something probably good to say about Baylor. You will win at least 2 games next year, probably. Matt Rule apparently interviewed for the Colts head coaching gig, which, okay. Don't think he has the best resume coming off this year. Baylor was facing a whole lot of adversity, but I certainly think they should have won more than 1 game. They probably should have beaten Liberty. Their only win, I think, was against Kansas. Do you think Auburn has a legitimate shot at the playoffs in 2018? Yeah, I think the missing ingredient at Auburn for a couple of years, really ever since Cam Newton left, has been a quarterback, and Stidham is that. They're losing they're losing Petway and they're losing Carry-On, but if they can find a stable running game, defense is always good at Auburn. Gus is still there, still got the scheme, coming back with another quarterback, a really dependable quarterback. There was a really big argument for them to get there this year. That loss to LSU really doomed them. Obviously, the loss to Georgia in the SEC championship. I think part of that is they put so much emphasis on Carry-On that when he got dinged up after the Iron Bowl and he couldn't quite do what he needed to in the SEC championship game, it kind of doomed them. Is Baker Mayfield the next Johnny Manziel? I don't know. That's something I was talking to my dad about that the other day. My dad thinks so. I don't know either guy. So it's a little hard for me to say. All the red flags are there for it. No pun intended. Grant Ritter, Ohio State fan. At least it looks like. No pun intended with the flag comment. But all the red flags are there. He seems like a giant douchebag. Seems very arrogant, very full of himself. And if if he carries that when he gets a lot of money, if he's a higher draft pick, which one of the things I'm looking forward to in the 2018 draft is how high Baker Mayfield goes. He's a Heisman winner. He's a proven leader. He can sling the ball. He can run. He seems to have everything you want. His size isn't great, and his attitude is not great. So I kind of not worry because I don't really care, but I wonder how he'll do in like interviews and with Gruden camp and all that stuff that the players go through with other coaches. Dwayne Haskins was a better quarterback at Ohio State than Barrett this year, and the committee would have known that if they watched anything other than the SEC. The committee does watch other stuff than the SEC. You said that Auburn was missing a quarterback after camp, but what about Nick Marshall? Yeah, but you have to think, 2013 Auburn got to the championship game kind of on a fluke, and he still wasn't. Jarrett Stidham is better than Nick Marshall as far as being a quarterback. They got there because of the kick six and that miracle Hail Mary against Georgia, and then they beat up on Missouri in the SEC championship. But if they had Jarrett Stidham, I don't know. It's kind of hard to play, but I think they probably would have been a different team because they ran so much with Marshall that year. Thoughts on Nick's... am I a college basketball fan? Kind of, sort of. I basically follow Clemson and Alabama. Clemson's playing NC State right now, actually. But I follow them, and that's kind of it. I get into March Madness a lot more. And I get into regular season conference championships as the season rolls down. Basically, I go through phases. I go college football nuts, and then starting this weekend... I start morphing into NFL for a couple of weeks. Hopefully the Eagles beat the Falcons. It's not going to happen. The Eagles are going to get murdered by the Falcons this weekend. But I enjoy the NFL playoffs up into the Super Bowl. Then the last month of the college basketball season, I get into that. Then March Madness. And then I get into like NBA playoffs and NBA finals. And then I finally run out of sports to care about because I don't care about baseball at all. I was going to say something, but I got to go. Well, bye, Barrett. Thoughts on UCF putting up a billboard challenging Bama to a home-and-home series? I think the fans did that more than actual UCF, but I think it's good marketing. I think it's getting Alabama to the bounce house would be great for business, right? It would be great. Even if UCF loses, it would be great to have Alabama there and then to get the paycheck to go into Alabama. It's a win-win for UCF and it's a lose-lose for Bama. If they beat UCF, everybody's going to go, yeah, well, you should have. And if they lose, all of a sudden UCF is world beaters. But it doesn't matter because it's not. The whole point is the 2017 UCF Knights versus the 2017 Alabama Crimson Tide. Well, it's never going to happen. So even if they play next year, it wouldn't be for the title. You know what I mean? Maybe for the Life Championship, which Alabama beat Georgia to capture. All that was lost in all of this national championship talk. But Alabama is the first ever two-time Life champions. There's a video coming out on that later. I see UCF going 0-13. Well, technically they can't. They'd go 0-12, but they're not going to go 0-12. Falcons will lose because of historic trends. No, because the Eagles are not some wonderful powerhouse dynasty. Unfortunately, they're going to beat the hell out of us in our home stadium on Saturday, and then they're going to go into the NFC Championship game against, what's the other game? The Saints and Saints-Vikings? It's going to be a good NFC Championship game, whoever it is. But then they're going to go and either the Falcons or the Saints are probably going to go on to the Super Bowl. But no, I have absolutely no faith is the wrong word. I have no belief that Philadelphia is winning this weekend. Do I think Shea Patterson transferring to Michigan from Ole Miss will make a difference? Yes. Yes, I do. I think Michigan was the only team in the country not to have... No, that's not true. But I did see a stat that they did not have a 50-plus yard touchdown pass this year. That's nuts. That's nuts. He's the kind of quarterback that can change Jim Harbaugh's fortunes very quickly and will be very tough to replace at Ole Miss. Does anybody know, is he actually playing next year? I heard that, will YouTube demonetize this video? Yes, they will. I promise you they will. Is Shea Patterson sitting out next year or not? I heard a rumor that he might have to. If he's ruled eligible this year, yeah. Justin Herbert was healthy. Do you think he would take this team to a New Year's Eve game? Oregon was a much different team with him on the field than off. I think they were it was like a 26-point swing or something nuts with him on the field. We'll have to see what that Oregon team looks like under Cristobal next year. Do you think Georgia will have a 10-plus win season next year? I think Georgia should have a 10-plus win season next year. The East, in 2 or 3 years, the East is going to be tough, really tough. A lot tougher than a lot of people give it credit for, but right now, they should. They got our buddies Austin Peay to open the season, another team that should have been in the playoff that wasn't. Austin Peay actually tweeted to UCF saying they knew how they felt. They got Middle Tennessee and UMass out of conference and Georgia Tech. All those should be wins. They do travel to LSU and get Auburn at home. But honestly, every other game on that schedule sitting where we are right now with nothing changing going forward, which it will. Right now, all of the rest of those games, even Missouri, South Carolina, Florida, they should all be wins. I don't know if they will. So they theoretically should have a 10-win season again next year. Did I hear about Marcus Lattimore coming to coach South Carolina as director of player development? I did. I have met Marcus Lattimore technically once, but I've been in the same bar with him 2 or 3 times. Clemson and Carolina are huge rivals, and I'm a Clemson fan also, in case you didn't know. Clemson and Carolina are huge rivals, but I always had a lot of respect for him. He always seemed like such a super nice dude. My cousin went to school with him briefly at Burns, so I'm glad he's got that job. Which team was a disappointment to you? So I haven't had internet for a couple of days, and so I just wrote a couple of videos, and one of them is my top 10 disappointing teams of 2017. I think I have 4 videos coming out tomorrow to kind of make up for not having any videos. Disappointing teams are one of them. Do you think there will be a Part 4 game? I assume that is in reference to Clemson, Alabama. I don't know if they'll meet again next year, but Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, they're all here to stay. They will all be meeting each other in the playoffs over the next 5-10 years, as long as the coaches stay the way they are. So we have not seen the last Clemson-Alabama game, unfortunately for me. I think Harbaugh is leaving in another 2 years anyway. He'll be back to the NFL sooner rather than later, says Rex Smith. I heard reports he was trying to bail this year. So I think there's some credence to that. I just can't imagine going to your alma mater. I was going to say and sucking, but that's not totally fair. But going to your alma mater and then bailing before you ever really get anything accomplished. I think that kind of sucks. If they ever fought South Carolina versus Southern Cal, depending on which of those teams showed up this year, I think Southern Cal probably wins those more often than South Carolina does this year. But South Carolina lost a lot of offensive power when Debo went down. Bye, Carson. How do you think New Mexico State and Liberty will do as independents? They play twice against each other. RIP Idaho. Yes, RIP Idaho. I think Liberty has more upside in the Indies than New Mexico State does. I know New Mexico State just came off their first bowl win in 57 years. Nuts. And first bowl appearance in 57 years. But Liberty is building, and they have an evangelical base. And they are really hitting hard with online education, which that seems like it doesn't make any sense, but they're growing their base nationally. That's what Liberty is trying to do. And they have more upside to them than New Mexico State does. And I don't think it would be very long before Liberty can possibly build a team to get, I don't want to say the playoffs or New Year's Six, but start getting into some of those middle tier bowls. What is my playoff picture? Eli, I assume you mean in 2018. I was very wrong in 2017. I think my playoff, I did a video about my New Year's Six predictions at the very beginning of the year, and a lot of you guys chimed in too, so I can look back and see what some of y'all did. I might make that a video. That'd be kind of interesting. I think at the beginning of the year I said Ohio State, which I just missed, Florida State, which I just barely missed, by an entire leg of DeAndre Francois. Oklahoma and Alabama. Maybe I said USC and Alabama. So two teams I was just outside of. I think I picked Alabama to win the national championship because, duh. And obviously I whiffed on Florida State. So right now, moving forward, obviously it's hard to project. I would probably say right now, Clemson, Alabama, I don't want to say Oklahoma and Ohio State. That seems so boring. Well, let me throw one wild card in. I'll go Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. I'm trying to think of like a kind of a out of left field team. We'll say Auburn. Why not? Screw it. We'll say Auburn, Alabama, Florida State. Nope. Auburn, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. That's going to change. It'll change if you ask me in 10 minutes. Put Georgia. Yeah, I mean, you know, you're really you're looking at Georgia, Clemson, Auburn, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, USC, Penn State, maybe Washington, maybe a Notre Dame or a Miami can sneak in there. Maybe a Virginia Tech. We'll be interested to see what Chip Kelly does at UCLA, what Florida does with Dan Mullen. Sparty. Not Louisville. They struggled enough with arguably the best player in the country, Lamar Jackson. Next year it'll be tough to see what Bobby Petrino can put together on offense. Can Ohio State repeat as Big Ten champs? Yeah, of course they can. Michigan has proven unable to beat them. They do have to travel to Penn State. I think they get Michigan State at home. No. They travel to Michigan State, I think. Yeah, absolutely they can. Kentucky for playoff. Sorry, Isaiah, wrong sport. Kentucky for this year's playoff? Absolutely. Syracuse will make the playoffs this coming year. Watch. If they can get somebody to replace Dungy, Who from the group of 5 will be an undefeated dark horse this season in 2018? A long way off, but UCF isn't going anywhere immediately. I do still trust Mackenzie Milton. Army went 10-3. Army would be up there. Boise, Fresno. The Mountain West is good. Mountain West is going to be pretty good the next few years. There's a lot of people that want the American to be back to a Power 6 conference. And there's a chance that if the Mountain West played the American, it would be a very competitive series. Will you do an 18 playoff video? I don't know. So how I've done that the last 2 years is I took what the committee's final 8 teams would be, which I think is unfair this year because I think UCF absolutely deserved to be in an 18 playoff. I think if there was an 18 playoff, they would have been number 8. Or at least they should have been number 8. But if I did that video, USC would be number 8. Will the Sun Belt team ever make the top 20? If they did, it would probably be Troy. I think Troy was the first ever Sun Belt team ranked last year. I don't know. I don't think they got ranked this year after they beat LSU. Early prediction for where College Game Day is week 1. I don't know. They don't have it up yet. Week 1 is pretty loaded. ESPN tweeted out a couple of games that are week 1. Alabama, Louisville, Miami, LSU, Michigan, Notre Dame. Probably Michigan, Notre Dame. I feel like, if you're game day and there's some big games up north early, you got to go to those games. Because you can go to the Alabamas and the Georgias and the LSUs and the Texases and the USCs later in the season. You need to get up to Notre Dame or Michigan, Penn State, early and often. Why is Alabama so good? Because they have Nick Saban as their head coach. That one's pretty easy. Do I think DeAndre Francois can win the Heisman? Not if he can't stay on his feet. Even in 2016, that poor kid got thrown around the field. He had more green on his jersey than garnet. So he has to be able to stand up. If they don't fix that offensive line, that has to be Willie Taggart's number one priority coming into Tallahassee, is fix that line and keep my boy standing up. Can he win the Heisman? I don't know. I could tell you Florida State wouldn't have gotten to the Orange Bowl without him. But thoughts on the Pac-12? Let's talk about bowl records for a second, shall we? Let's talk about bowl records for a second. So the Big Ten went 7-1, with the one loss being Michigan blowing a 16-point lead to South Carolina in the Outback Bowl. Michigan, what is you doing? And the Pac-12 went 1-for-8 in bowl games, with the only one win being a Utah team that beat a West Virginia team without Will Grier. Do you think that bowl records matter? Let me know in the chat. Do you think bowl records for conferences indicate how good that conference is? Because, I can see the argument both ways. Yeah, it's Utah versus West Virginia. It doesn't mean anything. But when you stack them all up, it means a lot. I hate that there's a lag from when I say something until you see it. Is your name just Eyeballs? Is that your username? I don't even know how to say that. Eyeballs. Yes, no. Bowl games don't matter. No. Yeah, it's I think they matter somewhat, but they shouldn't be a top concern. I agree with that. So that's kind of where I take it. No, right now I do not think Alabama's going to lose to Louisville. If Lamar Jackson was there, that would be a different story. Maybe. How else can you tell? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with conferences, when you have conference teams beating up on each other all year long, the only way to really measure it is to put them against other teams from other conferences. And theoretically, those other teams have the same amount of time to prepare for those games as you do. And when you get beat, when you have 9 teams and 8 of them lose, and the highest profile ones lose their New Year's 6 games, it doesn't look great. Can Alabama and Florida become a rivalry? You must be young, Max. If you were around in the 90s, you would know they are a rivalry, technically. Auburn and Florida used to be much, much bigger rivals until they got split up in the Division II. Thoughts on Cal, says Noble Bowls. I like Cal. I think they are moving in the right direction. As strange as it is to say, I think 5-7 this year, they were better than 5-7 at times. Look at what their defense did against Washington State. I don't think a lot of people expected them to beat Ole Miss and North Carolina. Those were both big wins. So I think Cal is on to bigger and better things. Do I think Colorado can become ranked again after a 5-7 season? Maybe. I think they have an uphill battle. They're in an increasingly tougher division in the South. Yes, Nicholas Began. It's a funny name. Began. Why did Alabama get in when Wisconsin was not even considered? That is something that bugged. I know I'm wearing the shirt, but still, objectively bugged me when I did the Selection Sunday live stream. I talked about it. Why in the world? Like, everybody says regular season games matter so much in college football. Do they? Because I watched a Wisconsin team go 12-0 and then get shafted, tossed aside. It was between a 2-loss Ohio State and a 1-loss Alabama for the final spot. A 1-loss Wisconsin team that barely lost to a really, really good Ohio State team that beat pretty soundly, the team that beat Ohio State pretty soundly. I thought Wisconsin had a great case. The problem was the rest of their scheduling, but, they beat FAU. I know that in most years that doesn't matter, but last year, FAU, at the end of the year, FAU is one of the better teams in the country. I think they could have taken out a lot of the bowl-eligible Power 5 teams. That is one thing that I think. That is one thing that I think was lost in that whole discussion. People were even propping up USC a little bit, who got destroyed by Notre Dame, who got destroyed by Miami. And Miami wasn't in consideration after getting destroyed by Clemson. And I know we always say the transitive property doesn't work in college football, but at some point, like, USC was kind of in the discussion. They put up a graphic, I remember, on the TV of USC's resume and not Wisconsin's. And I was like, Wisconsin has an easy schedule like every year. Yes, but I think Wisconsin probably would have won the national championship? No. I also don't think Ohio State would have won the national championship. I also don't think USC would have won the national championship, as we saw in their game against Ohio State. But I'm not even saying Wisconsin should have been in the playoff. I just think it's weird that nobody mentioned it. It was never brought up on any of the talking head shows on ESPN. And if you want to say ESPN bias, that I think is I think that's a valid point. Did UCF get robbed? No. So, no, I don't think they should have been in the 14 playoff. I also don't like that the committee kept them as low ranked as they did, all year long. I had them in the top 10. and they were 13th, 12th in the College Football Playoff Committee's poll. And then after all of these games, when they beat Auburn, a lot of people said Auburn didn't want to be there, but whatever, they beat Auburn. And I saw an Auburn team that held Mackenzie Milton to 3 completions in the first half, so clearly somebody was motivated to do something. Even after all that, the committee was like, oh yeah, no, we gave them as much respect as they deserved. I did not buy that. Thoughts on Matt Canada? I've heard, I guess it's supposed to be bad things, but I really want him as Michigan as offensive coordinator. All I can tell you is what I saw at Pitt. I was there for the Clemson-Pittsburgh game where they won on the last-second field goal, and I hadn't really paid that much attention to Pitt in 2016. I was very impressed. All the misdirection, the shovel passes, I thought his play calling in that game especially was brilliant and great. And if there was pretty much any other OC in the country, I'm not sure they would have won that game. And I thought when he went to LSU, it was going to be big trouble for those teams in the SEC West, and it was. They put up a decent fight against Alabama. They came back to beat Auburn. They shut out a couple of teams and outscored a lot of others. So, I thought that it was good. Apparently, he's a difficult guy to get along with. So that I don't know. And if he has a big ego or something and he gets around Harbaugh, who probably also has a big ego, I'm not sure. Have I heard of destroying the former kicker for USF? It's supposed to be UCF. Yeah, I did a video on that in August when he got kicked off the team about how the NCAA only cares about money. That was right around the time they swept under the rug North Carolina, just making up classes for basketball. Well, really all students, but primarily for basketball and for athletic scholarships. And the NCAA was like, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. But then they make this kid leave because he makes a few bucks on a YouTube channel. I thought that was really stupid. I thought that was incredibly ridiculous. Do I think JT Barrett will make the NFL? Asks Max. I don't know. There's nothing inherently wrong with JT Barrett. I'm going to say something that I hope makes sense. He's a college quarterback. And I don't entirely know what I mean by that. Like you watch Cam Newton. Cam Newton was a pro quarterback. Colt McCoy was a college quarterback. Tebow was a college quarterback. I can't elaborate because I can't exactly say what I mean because I don't know the words for it. Watching JT Barrett, I look at that guy and I go, he is a really good college quarterback. You look at Deshaun Watson and you go, that boy's an NFL quarterback. He never, JT Barrett never, he set all kinds of records, and he has all the intangibles of a leader, of somebody you want on your team. He seems like a good dude, but I don't know if he will, I don't know what he'll do in the draft. That'll be another interesting thing. Is Baker Mayfield Johnny Manziel 2.0? I kind of talked about that a little earlier. I don't think so. I think he's a little more mature. He's older. He's walked on twice at 2 different schools, but he has the potential to be. I get an itchy nose. Is NC State a sleeping giant? North Carolina is a fertile recruiting state, and State has a great football fan base in a big city with only one pro team. I think that meant, I guess the one pro team is the Panthers, not the Hurricanes. But yes, NC State's, if there's any NC State fans watching, I'm going to make you angry, I think, here in a second. NC State's inability to really be successful in sports has always blew my mind. Growing up, in basketball, North Carolina and Duke were there. In football, it was always Clemson and Florida State. NC State just always seems, NC State and Wake Forest both are just always kind of just there. And then they get a couple of big wins here and there in both sports. I don't follow baseball as much. But in football and basketball, they get some really big wins here and there, and some upsets, and some good teams. Phillip Rivers and Torrey Holt, Mario Williams. But for some reason, NC State has never been able to put it all together. I don't think Dave Doran is the guy to do that. I think Dave Doran kind of sucks as a person. But I love Raleigh. I love that city. I love NC State's campus. I love that part of North Carolina. NC State should be better than they are. Are they a sleeping giant? I don't quite think so. 9-4 this year. They should have done, with as many seniors as they have, specifically on the defense, they should have done better than they did. How they lost to South Carolina will blow my mind for eternity. How long until UCLA wins a national championship? We will have to see what Chip Kelly does. National championship is a bit lofty. You should try to win the Pac-12 first. When's the last time y'all actually did that? UCLA. When's the last time they actually won the Pac-12? I want to say 2000, but that's not right. 98? So yeah, it's been 2 decades since you even won the conference. So I don't know about a national championship. Is Michigan State a Big Ten sleeper? No, I think Michigan State has kind of moved into the upper part. Michigan State, if they won the conference next year, I don't think that would really surprise a lot of people. Maybe some people in Ohio. But Michigan State, keeps beating Michigan, keeps being competitive, beat Penn State. So I think even Northwestern, I don't think I would consider a sleeper anymore. Maybe to win the conference, but to cause some havoc and maybe win the West, I don't think they're even a sleeper anymore. Maryland is a good Big Ten sleeper. Is Florida State an ACC sleeper? That's something I never thought I'd be asked in my whole life. They're still going to get a lot of respect coming into 2018 because they are Florida State. And even with everything that happened last year, you can say new coach, Francois back, everything is fine. Florida State still has an uphill battle, especially with that offensive line. Defense is always rock solid. Cam Akers is a stud, so I don't think I would feel comfortable calling them a sleeper. Boston College, Wake Forest, those are ACC sleepers. How will Texas do? Texas has to get a quarterback situation figured out, but I trust Tom Herman. I don't. If you're a Texas fan, don't think about 2018. Anything that happens in 2018 over 6 wins is great. If you get to 8-4, that's wonderful. Look at 2019. Give Tom Herman time to, reestablish those UT connections with high schools that may have been lost since Mac Brown wasn't there anymore. Give him some time to get his guys in there, and Texas will be back very soon. Although I am already dreading all of the "Is Texas back?" headlines that we're going to see all during 2018. How long until Muschamp gets fired at Carolina? I don't know, man. I don't know what South Carolina's standards are. So, and I feel like that's a weird way to say that. South Carolina had a run of about 4 or 5 great years under Spurrier. 11-win seasons, an SEC East title, dominating Clemson in the state championship. And that's unprecedented for South Carolina football. Well, then they dropped off. And I don't know, is 9-4 acceptable now? Because if 9-4 is acceptable for South Carolina while Clemson is winning national championships, then Muschamp could be there for quite a while. If they go, well, we deserve better, and we kind of only hired Will Muschamp because we thought we might get Tom Herman or Lincoln Riley, and then we kind of got left holding the bag, then he may not be there longer than 2 or 3 more years. if I was Hurts, what would I do? I would stay. I know it's tough. It's easy for me to say sitting here and going, oh, I'm a great quarterback. I'm just going to stay here and be second fiddle. But if you transfer, you're going to lose a year of eligibility. You're only going to have one more year at wherever you go. And I don't know if that's enough time. Most people that transfer tend to transfer in the first 2 years, so they have 2 or 3 years left. I would stay and battle it out, and then I think Hurts would be, something like a Wildcat back. I think he would run that flawlessly. If I'm Saban, that's what I'm telling him. Hey, even if you don't win the starting quarterback job in the spring, or fall camp, we will keep you here, and you will get 10 snaps a game, 15 snaps a game. And, he had 47 yards rushing in the game on 6 carries, I believe. Dude can run the ball. That's always been a strength of his. It's just when you need to take the top off of teams, that's when you bring in the left-handed Hawaiian. If Wisconsin won the Big Ten championship game, would they compete with Clemson? Clemson looked better against Miami than Wisconsin did. But that Clemson performance in the Sugar Bowl is about as pitiful as I've seen a Clemson performance. It's probably, if you don't count the 2010 season, anything before 2011 doesn't count. I think that's Dabo's worst coaching job. They looked feeble in all 3 areas of the game. And if Wisconsin played that team, Wisconsin would run all over Clemson. They would run all over them. They would probably have beaten them by honestly, about the same score Alabama did. But if the Wisconsin team from the Big Ten championship played the Clemson team from the ACC championship, I would pick Clemson to win that game. How long until Scott Frost wins a championship with Nebraska? J-Rock, everything I said about Texas a few minutes ago, apply that to Nebraska too. You haven't even won a Big Ten title yet. So I know fan bases get a lot going on in their head. It's going to take some time. Nebraska is not the Nebraska team that Scott Frost was the quarterback of. It's going to take a lot to get back there. Don't even look at the record. That's obviously unfair to say, but don't expect anything big until 2020. I think I've always heard with bands that the third album is their album. If you look at a lot of bands, like the third album tends to be like their self-titled album. It's the one where they really feel like they're starting to get their musical whatever going. I feel like Coaches is about the same way. I think the third year is really indicative of where your program is headed. Look at Clemson. Clemson's a perfect example. Dabo's real first season was 2009. Went to the ACC championship, but it wasn't anything spectacular. 2010, they had a losing season. 2011, won the ACC championship. So that's when you start to see where things are going to go. Wish I had like a little table. All right. Nebraska is never coming back. Never say never, Marcus. How can you like Alabama and Clemson when they've played each other for the past 3 years? Who do you go for? MC boy. So, just in case you don't know, I grew up a Clemson fan. My dad was an IPTAY member, which is their ticket booster club. He was a IPTAY member since 1980, I believe, the year before they won their first title. That's something I can say now. I was born in 89. I started going to Clemson games in 93, 94. I was like 4 years old. So I went to Clemson games my entire life. I've been to hundreds of Clemson games mostly at home, but I've been to a dozen or so away games and bowl games and conference championships and the national championship. So I love Clemson. I absolutely love Clemson. But I went to Alabama. All my friends went to Clemson. I was like, well, I'm not going to go where all my friends are going to go. So I went to this plucky upstart team called Alabama with first-year head coach Nick Saban in 2007. And so I go for my alma mater. I pull for my alma mater. I don't pull for my alma mater against Clemson the way I do against other teams. So I lost my mind when Tua completed that touchdown to win the game against Georgia. Like all of those videos you see of people jumping up and running around the room, that's what I did. Because, again, Alabama had no reason to win that game. Alabama was being destroyed in the first half. It was only 13-0, but Alabama, and there was no pulse to that team. The defense was trying, but if Tua had stayed on the sidelines, Georgia probably would have shut Alabama out. And then Alabama just chipped away. People on Twitter were like, trust Saban. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're getting killed. Turns out I should have trusted Saban. You have never said anything about the Iowa wave. Why not? I don't know. I feel like the implication in your question is that I hate children with cancer, and that is not the case. I have cried watching those videos. Sometimes, at night you go through and you just watch random plays for football that you remember. That thing pops up on the side, and I get in a really that sappy. Oh, I guess that is why it's called sappy, right? Sad happy? How about that? I don't know if that's true or not. But I get in that weird place where I'm like, that is so beautiful. So I do love it. I'm not rooting for cancer, I promise. I'm very anti-cancer. Dustin is a child hater. No, I'm not. Sorry to disappoint. Can Nick Saban get a head coaching job? Can he get it? Yeah, he can get a head coaching job. Nick Saban can get any coaching job he wants. Will he is the bigger question. Bruce Arians, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, which I hate because I really like him as a head coach. He seems like a good dude. He and Saban are friends, I guess. I guess as good of friends as you can be with Saban. He doesn't seem like the most amiable person to be around all the time, but he said he covets the New York Giants job, and there were reports that he interviewed for the New York Giants job, or at least met with people there when it was open before McAdoo got it. It's open again, which leads right into the next question. Brendan Harris, what does Alabama do once Nick retires? Probably tries to throw $20 million at Dabo Swinney and make him the highest priced coach of all time. But after that, I don't know. Because Saban, I always thought kind of Kirby Smart was the de facto head coach in waiting, but Saban doesn't plan on retiring anytime soon. It seems like even if he went pro, he's not retiring, right? So he plans on coaching for, I would guess, at least 5 more years. Kirby wasn't going to wait that long, nor, should he be expected to. So I don't know. Saw something about Minka. Oh, that was somebody replying to somebody else. When Saban leaves, it's Georgia's conference to lose? Not necessarily. Dan Mullen, I believe in Dan Mullen. What he did at Mississippi State is an all-time coach. Dan Mullen got Mississippi State number 1 in the country. I believe they were number 1 in the first ever college football playoff poll. That's a little bit of trivia for you. Mississippi State. That's an all-time coaching job. So if he can do that at Miss State, what the hell can he do at Florida? As soon as he gets, a Tim Tebow there, assuming he doesn't think Felipe Franks or something, As soon as he gets his guys in there, Florida, Georgia, Pruitt better try to keep up at Tennessee because it might be the Florida, Georgia show every year. And then you'll always have Alabama, Alabama will still be there, at least for a little while after Saban leaves. Still have LSU, Auburn. I think Arkansas, under Chad Morris, I don't want to quite say is going to get to the Bobby Petrino level, but they're primed to get to the Bobby Petrino level. Mullen won't be that good. Maybe. I think he'll be. Will Swinney get a job in the NFL? I can't imagine him going to the NFL. He seems like such a college football coach. He's never seemed to express any interest in the NFL. I mean, not that I know of. The bigger question is, will he go to Alabama? Will he go to Alabama? I don't know. Should he? No, he should not. Will Colin Sexton be a top 5 lottery pick? I don't know. I think that's a little high. But I knew when we got him, all of a sudden, because we got him, Alabama was ranked in the top 25. We had no business being there. We beat a Texas A&M basketball team the other day that was really depleted, but still really big. Tired of Bama winning? Not me. I'm not tired of Bama winning. Who will do better next year, Florida or Florida State? Off the top of my head, I'm going to say Florida. I think that's a easier division for right now in the East. Yeah, they have Georgia, but they get LSU. But I think that's an easier division. I think they'll be able to hopefully pass the ball this year. Thoughts on UAB? I'm so proud of what UAB was able to do this year. They're not my school officially, but they kind of are. But to come back and go to a bowl game, I think UAB is on the up and up. I would not be surprised if Legion Field hosted a CUSA championship game in the near future. Shout out, please. Sure, Skittle Steve 01. I've seen you comment enough. Dustin, get some college football players, coaches, or cheerleaders on your channel one of these days. I'm going to do that in backwards order, if that's okay. I'm going to work on the cheerleaders, then I'll do the coaches, and then the players. I do want to invest in a microphone sometime this offseason. I don't know how you go about just like interviewing people. I don't know if I can just do that. If I can just like go places and interview people. I don't know. I kind of think I like the idea of going out and like asking regular people on the street questions about college football. I think that's fun. And do kind of a college football game show almost. I would only do it like once every month or something. But I think that would be fun. Could Texas A&M upset Clemson next year? Yeah, they could. Jimbo knows Clemson well enough. What about the rumors of Clemson's entire D-line coming back? Yeah, they haven't declared yet, have they? Clemson, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Every single person that's declared from Clemson, is dumb. I've yet to see a single person declare that should declare. Yeah, I haven't declared yet. If they come back, my God. I don't know if they will, because Clemson keeps getting talent and depth at that position. And sometimes those guys, like Christian Wilkins, got his degree in 2.5 years. So some of those guys are like, well, I've already got my degree. I'm already going to go high in the draft. There's already guys behind me itching for playing time. I might as well just go. But if they can come back, I expect Clemson to be preseason number 1. Honest to God. Which coaches are on the hot seat right now other than Cliff Kingsbury and David Beatty? Yeah, I don't know what Kansas is doing. Coaches on the hot seat off the top of my head, it has to be Jim Harbaugh. It has to be on the hot seat. Hey, a super chat. Thank you, J-Rock. Thanks for all the videos this year. Nebraska national champions within 5 years. Well, good luck to you. I don't have a problem with Nebraska. That wouldn't bother me at all. The first national championship game I remember was Florida in 96. Like, I just missed Nebraska. But thank you for the $7 super chat. That means a lot. Especially in January. Boy, this is my first real January as a YouTuber. Boy, there is no money in AdSense this month. Holy cow. Ray shouldn't have declared. Yeah, I don't know why. Ray, I mean, dude still fumbles punts. Like, don't declare. That was probably nothing. Deion Kane declared. He shouldn't have. Ryan Carter declared. Come on, what are you doing? How do you give a super chat? Right under, if you see on where you say something in the chat, there's a little $sign, and you can do that there if you so please. There's no pressure to, but if you don't give me a super chat, but you watch other creators, especially smaller creators, and they're doing live streams, and you want to throw a buck or two at them, you should, because it really helps us out. Like, YouTube takes a chunk out of the super chat too, which sucks. But it really does help us out. Like, for instance, I'm not going to make $7 on this video ever. I promise you. So I'm really appreciative, J-Rock. Thank you. 01 Canes still the best team ever. They're up there. They are up there. Watching that 2001 Miami team was crazy. And then all of the NFLers that came off that squad, either for 2000, 2001, 2002, like that span, was nuts. Yeah, this is a question I'm going to tap out of right now. Do you think Justin Fields will start over Jake Fromm next year? I don't know. This will be the first big, that's probably an unfair thing to say, one of the big things for Kirby Smart, kind of to set the tone at Georgia. The best examples I can give of what I'm about to say is Clemson and Alabama, because I pay most attention to those. When Deshaun Watson came into Clemson in 2014, he was very clearly the better quarterback. Over Cole Stout. Nobody is ever going to remember Cole Stout's name, ever. Very clearly the best. Dabo just would not pull Cole Stout. He put Deshaun in for a drive. They would go down the field against Georgia and score. And then he would put Cole Stout back in. What that tells me, if I'm being recruited by Clemson, is even if I'm a superstar as a freshman, I'm not going to get put in the game. Nick Saban just put a true freshman with no meaningful snaps in to win the national championship. So you go to Alabama, you're going to play if you're the best guy. That makes me want to go to Alabama more than Clemson. So what happens in spring, I don't know. Or summer camp, whenever Fields gets there. I'm not sure if he's getting there early or not. But if he better start whoever's the best player. Florida A&M would be Bama. Yeah, man. Florida A&M won the very first ever FCS championship game. So there's that. Who is the best team ever in your opinion? The 95 Huskers? I don't know. Like, it's one of those eternal debates. 95 Nebraska, 2001 Miami, 2004 USC. Some of those Miami teams out of the 80s. Some of those Penn State teams out of the 80s. 2015 Ohio State, best team ever to not win a national title. Again, there's a lot of those teams out there too. 2004 Auburn, 1966 Alabama. There was a USC team in the 70s that didn't win. Oklahoma in 51? One of those years. Do you think Les Miles might be a coordinator at Alabama next year? Boy, that would be funny. Oh boy, if LSU thought that if LSU fans thought that they hated Alabama and Nick Saban enough, imagine if Les Miles went there as a coordinator and then Alabama just kept winning national championships. Oh man, that'd be funny. OBJ comes back to be the wide receivers coach at Bama. Michael Allen, NFL divisional round picks for this weekend. I've heard rumors that there are people supposedly on the internet that think the Titans are going to beat the Patriots. I don't know who these people are. I think Patriots win. Steelers-Jaguars, it's going to be a really interesting game because Big Ben threw 5 interceptions in that first meeting earlier this year. I do think at Heinz Field that the Steelers get it done. I know this is a college football channel, but I told you. Now the national championship game's over. I'm in playoff mode in my head for the NFL. I think the Eagles are going to lose the Falcons. Whatever the point spread is, take Atlanta to beat the spread. As long as Nick Foles is there. If Carson Wentz was there, I don't think it would even... As good as Atlanta's offense can be, I'm not even sure it'd be a game. Carson Wentz is the MVP. I don't care if Tom Brady wins it this year. Carson Wentz was the best player in the NFL this year. And then Saints-Vikings is probably going to be the best game of the weekend. And the Saints could have easily been beaten by the Panthers. And I never really regarded the Panthers as that great of a team. So I guess I'm going to have to go Vikings this weekend. So Vikings, Patriots, Falcons, Steelers. Other than the Falcons, those are all the 3 higher seeds, which I guess is kind of a cop-out. But thoughts on DBZ Abridged's Christmas special? I thought it was great. I watched it like 3 times the day it came out on Christmas. I had to look up what the actual special was. They did such a good job. It's crazy. I'm craving episode 60. It's going to be in 3 parts. Opinion of Trevor Lawrence. I haven't watched a lot of him. I watched. He had 2 football games on during the season that I tried to watch. Kid looks special. It'll be interesting to see what he does in Clemson's system. I think Kelly Bryant is very beatable in a quarterback competition. So it would not surprise me if Trevor Lawrence started. But like I said, Dabo likes seniority for some reason. So expect Kelly Bryant to start even if Trevor Lawrence is still the better quarterback. Saints-Vikings going to suck because Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are commentating. That's disappointing. I never really thought too much about Joe Buck being like a bad commentator. A lot of people hate him. And I was always kind of like, he's fine, he's whatever. And then there's a compilation. I can't remember if it's Harris Highlights, but it's one of those kind of channels, Brick Sports Savage or something. One of those channels that has like a Joe Buck's worst calls compilation. And he called David Tyree's helmet catch against the Patriots in the Super Bowl like it was a 3-yard run out of bounds. I was like, come on. That's the greatest play of all time. What are you doing? What are you talking about? I saw one. Yeah, here you go. Kevin Ziegler. Ziegler? What FCS teams do you like? I like North Dakota State and Sam Houston State. At the very beginning of this broadcast, sounds like a radio transmission. At the very beginning of this live stream, I mentioned I don't dislike any FCS teams. I don't have the energy there to hate teams for any reason. But I'm from the upstate of South Carolina, so it's always been Furman and Wofford, and then Coastal, and then App State, Georgia Southern. My cousin's former head coach is the head coach of James Madison. I like Villanova because they're in Philly, and Brian Westbrook was from there. Garoppolo's from Illinois State. I don't know. Carson Wentz is from North Dakota State. I don't hate anybody. But I also don't overly love anybody. I root for certain teams over others, but if Furman and Wofford made the playoffs this year. So did Furman. I think Furman beat Elon in the playoffs. But I wasn't heartbroken when they lost. I might try to go to the FCS National Championship game in Frisco next year. That's a thing. Who is going to hire Art Briles? Hopefully nobody. F that guy. There's been some. Where did Kendall just go? His son just went somewhere, and was getting flack. He's in the pros. No, he was at FAU. I think he's at Houston now. I'm not going to put the blame on the son, but yeah, I hope Art Briles doesn't go anywhere. Best team left out of the playoffs so far. 2014 TCU or Baylor, 2015 Ohio State, 2017 UCF. Really, that should be 2017 Ohio State, but I understand, given what we've seen so far, why you would say that. 2014 TCU. I think that season, I think the Horned Frogs are the best team in the country with Boykin at quarterback. Aaron Green is a running back. Yeah, I think they were by far the best team in the country. I think them being left out of the playoff is the biggest sham of the playoffs so far. Yeah, I think it's TCU. I don't even think it's that close. If it's close, it'll be 2014 Baylor. Do I root for any high schools in the upstate? Just mine. And Dorman. My cousin went to Dorman. Hey, a $5 super chat. Fenelway. What do you think A&M is going to be like in the next couple of years with Jimbo as coach? Also, I like your channel. Keep up the good work. Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate all super chats. You guys are really nice. Thank you. A&M over the next few years, their defense is going to get better, which is something I think that, they can finally join the SEC in that regard. Jimbo's a really good coach. He inherited a Florida State team that was going downhill. Whoa. I said that Southern, was going downhill under Bobby Bowden and turned it around and won a national championship in 3 years. Bobby Bowden could not have won a national championship if he'd stayed there. So if he can do that at Florida State, he can do the exact same thing at Texas A&M with a fan base and an administration that is tickled to death to be in the SEC and pouring money into it. They just had the huge renovation on Kyle Field, and it'll be tough because you're going against LSU, Auburn, and Bama every year. Arkansas will be better. So Mississippi schools, I think the jury's still out a little bit on what they will be like. I don't know. Matt Luke, I kind of think Matt Luke is a fall guy for whatever's going to happen. And then Moorhead, we'll see. But yeah, I think A&M is going to do really good. Sorry, I had to. If you comment the same thing about 1 billion times in a row, don't do that. I know that it's like you want me to see your message, and I will. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I like I was saying, first overall pick. I don't know because the Browns are nuts. The Browns will see whoever the number 1 overall pick is going to be. The Browns are going to see them. They're going to know they need them, and they're going to trade down the draft because they're dumb. Will Bama win next year? Yes. They're going to win a lot next year. I assume you mean, are they going to win the national championship? I mean, right now they're 7-2 odds or something. They have the best odds right now. But usually the champions have the best odds immediately after the national championship. But yeah, I think so. All right. It's 10:37. How long have I been chatting? About an hour and a half. Yeah, sounds about right. My cousin is Carson Wentz, and he deserves MVP. I agree. I don't know when they give that out. What if Tom Brady was with the Browns? We would have never heard of Tom Brady's name. We would have never heard who he was. What the Browns are the saddest franchise in history. There's a great SB Nation video on the Browns living in hell. Watching the Ravens go off with their entire team. They had Bill Belichick as their quarterback. They had Nick Saban as their defensive coordinator in 95. Maybe Saban wasn't there in 95. He was there in the early to mid-90s. But still, I mean, they should be the greatest dynasty of all time. Do I live in the Rust Belt? No. I think in the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan. No, I'm in the South. The NFL awards are on February 3rd. Okay. See, I thought they gave MVP out before the Super Bowl. Maybe that is before the Super Bowl. Please compare Aaron Murray's and Jake Fromm's stats. Fromm will break records. Just watch. I don't know their stats off the top of my head. I can make a video on that. That might be interesting. Anybody that's watching this and you want me to make a video or you have video suggestions, come back. All these chats go away. I always read the live stream. I read every video's comments, at least for the next 2 days after the video is published. But the live stream, I typically keep that going for 3 or 4 days. Come back and leave video ideas because I want to be able to credit you guys for video ideas. Do I think Jalen Hurts will change positions or switch schools? Talked about that a little bit in this chat. I think he. I don't know what he will do. I think he should change positions to some kind of a wildcat running back situation. Tunga Vailoa or Fromm? I think that was answered in the game, my friend. The Vikings didn't deserve the playoffs this year. They were the 2 seed. What are you talking about? They didn't squeak in. Browns are 2-41 in their last 43. I like Hugh Jackson. Everything I've seen of him, he seems like a good coach and a good dude. You can't keep a coach after an 0-16 season. You can't do it. And he was 1-15 the year before that. You can't do that. Fromm with 24 touchdowns and 7 picks. Aaron had 24 touchdowns and 8 picks. In one season maybe. But I assume you're asking about the entire career because Aaron is Georgia's all-time leading passer, right? Best OC with no job right now, Matt Canada. I do think he is still unemployed, correct? Yeah, I think he is. So I would say Matt Canada. All right. Did I play high school football? Technically, there's a program with my face in it. I started playing high school football my sophomore year of high school because I was skinny and out of shape, and I was bored and I just wanted something to do. And obviously, I love football, and so I was a tight end / defensive end, and my school was terrible at football. There weren't like tryouts; you just were on the team. And they moved me up to varsity. So I played JV on Thursday nights and varsity on Fridays. And I realized we beat our big rival. Our big rival was the 3rd game of the year because we were really bad at scheduling. And we beat our big rival, and I was like, okay, well, that's all I wanted to do. I just quit. Because, I don't know, I miss hanging out with my friends. I would rather have hung out with my friends than been on a football field getting yelled at. That's just me. I've never had a big drive to be something great. I've always been a very lazy person. Do you rank this national championship among one of the best of all time? I had a feeling somebody was going to ask that. No, I don't even think it's close. It had a great ending, but no, I don't. I think the last two between Clemson and Alabama were both up there. Everybody talks about the 2016 game where Clemson won with 1 second left. The first half of that game was kind of boring too. The 2015 game between those two was extraordinarily exciting. Miami, Ohio State, USC, Texas, Auburn, Florida State. That's just the BCS era. Those games were a lot more interesting through and through from start to finish than this one was, I thought. Did I join a fraternity at UA? No, I did not. I thought about it, but I'm poor. I'm still poor. But I was poor then, and it was like $3,000 to join because I didn't know anybody when I moved out there. And then my first semester there, my first weekend there, I had met some guys that I was kind of friends with at orientation. And we all, we were scared 18-year-old freshmen, so we flocked together. And our first weekend there, we went out to I didn't drink at the time. I didn't drink a drop of alcohol until I was 21, believe it or not. But they wanted to drink, so I went out with them just to hang out. And we tried to go to fraternities, and everybody at all the fraternities I went to were dicks. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm never joining one of those things then. So no, I did not. Are the racist University of Alabama rumors true? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Way off topic of college football, but there's something at UA, I'm sure it still exists. It's lessened from what I understand from when I was there just a few years ago, but for, dozens, decades and decades of years, there was something called the Machine. It's still there. I know it is. They rotate who is homecoming queen. They rotate who is SGA president. No minority, no women were ever president unless the Greek Machine wanted them to be. Now, the whole thing sucked. If you were black, you were not getting into a white fraternity. Not. I remember my sophomore year really, really, really wanting this black girl named Kendra Key to become SGA president because genuinely I liked her. I liked what she said. I don't remember any of it now because it was 7 years ago. But I liked everything she seemed to be about. And it was also really nice. It was a middle finger to the Machine. And they were doing illegal tactics like buying people beer at bars and voting, bringing laptops into bathrooms and making people vote. All kinds crazy. It's the biggest stain on the University of Alabama. It's just a continuation of Foster Auditorium. Can Alabama win a national championship without Nick Saban? They won 12 without him, so I think so. Did I go to every Alabama game when I was in college? No, unfortunately I did not. Especially the newness of it wears off. So as the years went on, I went to every SEC game except for one. I missed 2009 Arkansas game because it was raining a lot. I didn't want to go. It's the only SEC game I think I missed. But by the end of my senior year, I wasn't going to the Western Carolina games anymore. As a high school, oh wow, it's 2018. Sad racism still exists. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It was such a black eye on my school. I really hated it. I was really embarrassed. It would be every once in a while, every year during sorority recruitment, it would pop up on some national outlet like Inside Edition or something. Some random national outlet or Vice would write a piece on it. And my friends back home would be like, is this true? And I had to be like, yeah, it's really dumb. As a high school student, should I consider UA? I can get a lot of scholarship money to go there even though I'm out of state. If you can afford it, yeah. I loved Alabama. I loved being there. I loved the people. I loved the faculty. I was super, super ingrained in UA. I had all kinds of positions there. I worked in the bookstore. I was an RA. I was a desk assistant. I was an orientation leader. So yeah, I worked in the orientation office. So I loved Alabama. Will Hugh Freeze get a new coaching job in 2018? I doubt it. He has to wait a little bit of time for the stink to clear off of him. Excuse me. He'll come back as an offensive coordinator in the next few years, though. What he did is not as bad as what Art Briles did. Art Briles is done. Anybody that even thinks about hiring Art Briles, I don't know what in the world they're doing. Water gives me indigestion, so sorry. But Hugh Freeze will be back in probably 2 years or so. He'll go to some school or some pro team as like a scout or a football scout, whatever. Kind of like, think about Steve Sarkisian. He left USC and came to Alabama. Whatever it was he was supposed to have done, like a offensive strategist or something. He'll do something like that, kind of clean him up a little bit, and then he'll slide into like maybe a quarterback's coach for a year, and then he'll be an OC. What made me choose Alabama? So I was failing math in high school. I was always a history student, so I hated math. So I went to this university fair because I was going to get extra credit in my math class, which I desperately needed. And I was going to Clemson. Like, in my mind, I was going to Clemson. I was never a worry or a concern. And just for fun, I talked to, like, there was a table there for Rutgers for some reason. My school was very dumb. My high school I went to was not a good school. We're not smart. We don't produce, like, national merit scholars or anything. We're just, like, some school, and we keep getting gerrymandered to get the worst students from the county to come to our school. Anyway. It wasn't a good school at all. And so the fact that like Rutgers and Notre Dame had tables cracked me up. I was like, nobody from the school is going to Notre Dame. I don't know where you think you are. But there was a table for Clemson, and everybody was there. Like Clemson and Carolina were like right beside each other, and everybody was at those tables. And so I was like, well, I'll go over there whenever I get some time. Everybody was over there. And so there was a really pretty girl at the Alabama table. And so I just wandered over there and, talked to that lovely lady. And then she showed me stuff about UA. And you have to remember, this isn't Alabama with Nick Saban. This is Alabama with Mike Shula. So it wasn't great. I fell in love with the pictures, and I scheduled a date that following February of 2007 to go out there, and it was a rainy, gross, stormy day when we got there, and I fell in love with the campus. And I was like, if I love it when it's storming, I'm absolutely going to love it when it's sunshine. And I did. I love Alabama's campus. Hey, Kobe. Do you smoke weed? I do not smoke weed. I've never done any kind of a drug. Who's your favorite Canadian football player? Right now, Trent Richardson. I think he's going to be with the Rough Riders. I need to watch more CFL. Who was your favorite to win the championship? I don't know what that means. I guess you're asking going into the playoff this year, sports mode number one, who I would have picked to have won the playoff this year. I thought Alabama had a good chance, but if I had to have made a educated guess based on the way the conference championship, like going through week 13 of the playoffs or the regular season, I really thought Clemson and Oklahoma were probably going to win in the semifinals, and I thought I trusted Clemson's defense, and I think I would have picked Clemson to win the national championship. I also did not expect them to come out and lay a total egg in the Sugar Bowl. That was embarrassing. Next week, if you've enjoyed this getting to know Dustin, next Monday, I'm doing a live stream Monday at around 9:15 Eastern Time. And it's not going to be about college football at all. At all. I want to talk about the channel. What you guys want to see going forward. and just kind of talk some things out. It probably won't even go this long. It'll probably just be about 45 minutes or so. Because I want to do a stream every week during the off season. So I just want to talk to you guys about like the channel and YouTube. So it won't be anything about college football next week, which is really weird because it's a college football channel. But I want to talk about the channel with you guys and get your input on it. Can I answer this question? Yes. Yes, I can. All right. What's it like to be lazy? It's awesome. It's everything you think it will be. All right. I think I'm going to hop off this. We're getting-ish towards 2 hours. My throat is starting to give out. And my mind is starting to go a little dull for being on here this long. Expect a lot of videos closing up the 2017, kind of recapping the season this week into this weekend. Do a live stream on Monday. And then regular videos every day after that. So that's exciting. Sorry it took me a little while to actually talk about the national championship game. We didn't get to talk about it a lot. I like you guys to kind of guide the conversation a little bit. Very happy Alabama won. Very surprised Alabama won. Georgia should have won and took their foot off the gas and let Alabama get back in the game, which they had no business doing. But yeah, now that I have internet, I can upload videos, which is a really good thing. So yeah, thank you guys very much. On your way out, if you're not subscribed for some reason, make sure to hit the subscribe button for college football videos. And if you haven't hit the like button, the big thumbs up yet, make sure to do that on the way out as well. So thank you guys very much for being with the stream. It means a lot. Thanks for the super chats. For those of you who did donate super chats, I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot, especially in a ad revenue depleted January. So thank you guys very much. It was really cool talking with everybody, and I will see you in videos during the rest of the week and on a live stream on Monday. Take care. It's against dynasties. Not a lot. What's up, Peyton Ingle? MoFan 10, Drew Lock coming back to Mizzou. That is going to be huge next year, especially in a SEC East that's a little bit depleted. Yeah, you have Georgia all the way at the top, but Kentucky, South Carolina, sure, has a good defense. Vanderbilt, also a good defense, but you're going to have a rebuilding Tennessee, a rebuilding Florida. UCF national champs. AJ Jones, when we talked on Twitter, I thought Georgia was going to win. I thought Georgia was going to win the whole time. I thought, most of the game, Georgia was clearly the better team. They took their foot off the gas or something in the second half and did not go for the kill when they should have. Got away from the pass, which worked pretty well, a lot better than I thought it would in the first half. All the way up until the end. When I was watching it with my aunt and uncle, and when we tried that field goal at the end of regulation that would have won it 23-20, they were like, Alabama's going to win a national championship. I was like, this must be your first ever Alabama game. There is no way we're making this kick. And then, of course, he hooked it left. I think he missed the entire net. Yeah, get that idiot out of here. He missed the entire net, and we went into overtime. And I thought when we went into overtime, I think I even tweeted, going into overtime, Georgia has a better run game. That gives them the advantage. And then Fromm took the big sack on third down. And then when Tua took the big sack on first down, I was like, wow, that's really bad. And then Tua threw the most absolutely perfect spiral pass. Perfect spiral pass. Why am I wearing this shirt? Because my alma mater won the national championship. This is the one time I'm going to gloat. Do I think UCF would beat Alabama? Here's what's funny. Here's what's funny about people, especially Bama fans, getting really mad at UCF fans calling for national champions. To my knowledge, and I may be wrong about this now, but as of Monday night or even before that, when UCF was really claiming, the whole national championship and having the big parade and all that. You can't be a national champ until somebody, like officially, until an poll outlet crowns you national champ. So if some verifiable poll or computer or ranking or whatever says the UCF is number one, they can claim it. Bama has titles that we really shouldn't claim that we do. Most schools that have national championships, especially in like the 20s through the 50s range, have national championships that they really shouldn't be able to claim. In 1950, Oklahoma finished the regular season number one and then got beat by Kentucky in a bowl game. But they claimed national champions at the end of the regular season instead of the bowls back then, so Oklahoma has that title. So if UCF wants to... thank you, Carrie Hartley. If UCF wants to claim themselves national champions, first off, you can claim yourself whatever you want. Oklahoma State put up a 1945 national championship thing on their stadium this year, so it doesn't bother me. But if a poll votes them as number one, that's fine because they're undefeated. But if Alabama fans are butthurt about it, don't be. You won the college football playoff. You'll be fine. Don't worry about them. Like Alabama fans, we have a big enough ego when it comes to our football team as it is. We'll be fine. I saved one video. Rascal 2019 Gaming, thoughts on the FCS championship. So I had something to do that morning, so I only saw the second half of that game, basically. I think I came in with a little bit left in the second quarter. But that was I hope you guys were able to watch that game. That's a really fun national championship game. Hey, lifers, Dustin here. It is saying we are live, so hopefully we are live right now. I know this video is, 3 days late. Before we actually start talking about everything, I want to explain it a little bit. My internet went out Sunday, and AT&T kept finding extra problems and all kinds of screwed up things outside that couldn't fix it, and yeah, I just could not live stream it until today. I also could not put up videos until today. So I've seen comments on videos asking, hey man, no new videos? The national championship just happened. Trust me, I know. I understand. I just have not been able to talk about it. It's been driving me nuts because I've just been talking to friends and family about it, and they're like, yeah, I know. Because they don't care about football the same way we do. What's up, everybody? Yes, Varzen188, I'm an Alabama fan. Normally I try to be really objective. I try to be, to keep how I feel about teams out of discussions and videos, and I'll continue to do that, but this is the one video I'm going to let myself gloat and really take it in, because as we will talk about here in a minute, Alabama had absolutely no reason to win that game. Georgia should be the national champions right now. So it's good to see 22 people already in here, 23. I apologize. I had this announcement set for Monday night right after the game, but our internet and TV went out, so I had to go across town to watch it. And then I couldn't figure out how to turn this off. My password, I have it now, but I made it something really complex so that I couldn't get hacked or swatted or whatever, any of that stuff. And, it's great when you can get into your account, but when you can't. So I just haven't been able to do it at somebody else's place either. The state of Georgia loves blowing big games. Yeah, it appears that way. It appears that way. Both red, white, and black teams blowing huge leads in championship games. The answer to that question is, could they beat Alabama? Of course. I think UCF is an extraordinarily good team, especially offensively. I think they are a really, 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 really strong team this past year, especially with Scott Frost coaching them. I don't know what the future looks like for UCF, even with Milton still being there, but I put it this way. If Alabama and UCF played 10 times in 2017 with their squads, I think UCF may win 2 of those. I think Alabama would win most of them. But the reason I want an 18 playoff is you never know if the Sugar Bowl or whatever could be that one time. You never know if in the quarterfinal, because UCF probably would have been the 8 seed. I guess they would have played Clemson. But you never know if that's the one time of the 2 times that they could possibly beat Alabama. Jalen will transfer. Maybe. I think Matt Wilson also asked, do you think Jalen Hurts will leave? I don't know. Jacob Eason is leaving to go to Washington, as reports coming out of Athens are, but he's a freshman. Hurts he's a rising junior. If you have to sit out a year of eligibility on top of that, you only really get one good year wherever else you're going. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back and battled Tua in the spring. We would assume, standing right where we are right now, that he would lose that battle and be the backup, but his most effective quality was always running the ball. So why wouldn't Jalen be kind of like a Wildcats player / running back / maybe he can even catch a few passes. Maybe he can kind of turn into the Jalen Samuels of Alabama, out of NC State, if anybody knows that player. Turtle Tav. Hi, you're an awesome football YouTuber. Thank you. But go Knights, national champs. That's fine. If when James Madison faked that punt to the left, they had all the momentum. The way the camera angle was, when that punter went to the left and the whole field opened up, I thought the punter was going to score a game-winning touchdown run in a national championship game. But he didn't, and then the North Dakota State defense kept pushing him back. Yeah, it was a really, really fun game. I was personally... I did realize during that game I don't hate a single FCS team in the country, I don't think. All my energy growing up was always in the FBS, so I didn't really care too much about the FCS, but I rooted for the odd team here or there. And growing up in South Carolina, I always rooted for Furman and Wofford and Coastal. In App State and Georgia Southern when they were down at the FCS ranks. But my cousin played football at Lenoir-Rhyne, which is the Division II school in Hickory, North Carolina, and his head coach was Mike Houston, who's the head coach of JMU. So I was kind of pulling for the Dukes because of that, but my boy Carson, I don't know if you can see, I have a little action figure of his, for the Eagles, obviously came out of North Dakota State, so I was fine either way. But that's something I learned. I was like, I don't really hate any FCS team. This is nice. I can, watch games and enjoy it. We will be back, and congrats to Alabama. That was a good game, and go Dogs. Hello, Aston. Hello, Brody. The first half was boring. Even if maybe if you were not, other than people rooting for Georgia. Because a lot of people think that the 2012 BCS championship between LSU and Alabama was boring. I loved it. I was an Alabama fan. But unless you were rooting for Georgia, the first half was pretty boring. I just expected more. Alabama's offense was, was sputtering under Jalen. I think we had 1 first down in the first half, 95 total yards. Georgia's touchdown drive to close out the first half was 69 yards by itself.